Hello everyone, and welcome to Andy's coding tutorials. So in this tutorial I'm going to teach you about the Vue.js, and this is going to be from a beginner's point of view. So if you haven't had any experience with Vue.js before, this is the tutorial for you. The one thing I do recommend is if you have some HTML experience, that'll be really good, and if you do have some JavaScript experience as well, that'll be really helpful. But the JavaScript experience is not necessary, so I will teach you that as we go along. But it will be helpful if you already have it. Okay, so what is Vue.js? I mean, they describe it as a progressive JavaScript framework, but what is that? I mean, that's just a name, and if you don't really know, it's hard to understand. So what I think we should do is I think we should start off and go, okay, let's just start making stuff. And if we start making something, let's learn from that, because I mean it's really hard to understand from just reading this. So if we go up to the Learn menu item, and you can get this at Vue.js.org, and so if we go Guide here, and I really recommend that you have a read of this page, but we'll be going through most of it, and I'm not going to go through the what is Vue.js section and that. But if you want, just have a quick read through it and see, and you can sort of, if there's anything that's not covered in here, you might be able to find something interesting in there. Okay, and so for reference, we'll be working on version 2. Version 3 is out, but I think it's easy to get started on 2, and version 3 doesn't have all of the other additional features like the extra libraries and that yet. So we'll start on 2 because that's the easiest. And okay, let's get going. Alright, so in programming, the first thing we want to do is we want to make, well, we always make a hello world example. So we just want to display hello world on the screen. And so that's what we're going to do in this tutorial. Okay, so I've just made an index.html file here. You don't have to, you can call it anything you want, but I feel it's just easier to say index.html. And what we're going to do is you can put that anywhere on your computer, your desktop or anything, because you're going to be loading it locally in your browser. So there's no specific folder you need to do it. I've just made a folder called Vue.js Beginners Tutorial, but you can put it anywhere you want. Okay? So what we need to do is, I'm running Visual Studio Code here, but you know, there's a number of other code editing tools. I find this is just much easier to use, and so that yeah, it's just you know, it's the latest tool that everyone seems to be using. Okay, one thing I will say is that a little bit of a side note, I am using Git. So what I'll be doing is after each lesson I'll be committing it, and then I'll put a link below to the commit, and then you can see exactly, you can download that yourself and you can copy it, and then you can play around with that. So at each stage of the way through there'll be a separate commit which you can see the code, and so you can, if you've got a bug or something, you can pull the version down from my GitHub account and compare with that, and then you can play around with that to make sure you've got a working version. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we need is just a HTML template. Okay, so thankfully Visual Studio gives us a helpful guide to get started. So if we do HTML5 there and enter, we get just a template here, which just a basic HTML outline template. Okay, so most of you will know what's happening here. So the one thing we want to do is, let's just change the title to Vue.js Beginners Tutorial. Okay, alright, so let's do that. Now what we need to do here is we've got nothing here, so let's just open that in the browser first, and I've just got that here. That's displaying nothing. There's nothing there. Okay, alright, so the next thing we want to do is we need to import the Vue.js script as it says here. And now we don't need to save anything locally, we can just get it from online, and it will automatically download it into the browser when the user opens the browser. Okay, so if we just copy this one, we want the development version because it's got console warnings. So if we make a mistake, Vue will say, hey, you've made a mistake here, this is where it is. So the production version here is used in production apps where all the bugs have been ironed out, and you don't get the warning messages and that. It's better to It's for faster downloads for the users if you're serving to, you know, hundreds and thousands of users. Okay, so let's get the development version. Now where we want to put that is we want to put that in the head here. Alright, so we'll just put that under title and just paste that in. Okay, so that's done now. So when we open the browser now, we'll know the browser will go, okay, I need to grab this JavaScript file from here, and that's got all of our Vue components and functions and, you know, all that kind of stuff in there. And so that's why it's really important that we have that there. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is, because we're not doing anything yet, we want to display a message. So how do we display a message? Okay, so the first thing in Vue is you need to have one div that Vue can go, hey, this is the div that I'm going to work with, and I'm going to put all my stuff in there, and this is going to be my base div that I can action. Okay, so if we go div, and we want to give it an ID of app. Now there's a shortcut in Visual Studio Code there to, if you put a hashtag and you do app, and the emit tag will work there. So we go div ID equals app. Okay, so it's very important that we give it a name like ID app. You can use anything you want, but the standard is to use app, and so that's what we'll be using here. Okay, so let's just load that in the browser again and see if anything's happening. Okay, so we've got nothing happening here. We can't see anything. Okay, so we have to keep going, right? Because Vue, we haven't told Vue, and we haven't told the browser what to do with that yet. Okay, so now we need to put a script tag in there. This is a JavaScript tag, and we need to say, okay, we have to create a Vue instance so that when the browser runs a JavaScript, it says, oh, hey, I need to create a Vue instance here, and this is all the settings I'm going to use for Vue, and then Vue is going to run all of its methods, and that's what's going to display it in the browser and, you know, change any data that needs to be changed and whatnot. Okay, so let's create a Vue instance. Alright, so let's say Vue equals new Vue, and now, so we want to, this is what, in JavaScript you create an instance like that, and so we need inside here the function parameters. We want to put an array, and this is where we're going to store everything when we initialize it. Okay, so the first thing we need to say to Vue is we need to say, hey, where is the Vue base div? What's that called? Okay, so that's, we say el, so el, which element is it going to be in, right? And that's going to be hash app. Okay, so that's app and app. Okay, so that's matching. So we just need to make sure, because that's a hash needs to be there because it's an ID. Okay, so the next thing we've got that. All right, let's just take a break for a second and let's see in the browser if anything's happening. Well, nothing's happening yet. We haven't told it to display anything. So let's keep going. Okay, so we've now defined the element that where Vue is set as app and app in our instance, but we need some more things. Okay, so where do we define variables? Okay, that's what we're going to do next, because variables in programming are basically everything you're going to store data in, and you need to have them to work with data. Okay, so what's that going to be called? Well, that's data, so it's pretty obvious there, but we're not going to put it in quotations here. What we're going to do is we're going to make that an array, because we're going to have multiple variables in there. Okay, so let's make a variable called test variable. Now it's not a very original name, but this is what we're going with. Okay, so let's put some data in there called hello world. Okay, alright, so now we've, in our data variables list, we've got a variable called test, and that has the data value of hello world. Okay, so if we check our browser again and we go, okay, well, let's reload that. Okay, so we still haven't done anything yet. We still haven't displayed anything. Alright, but we're getting closer. Now, so let's see how we can display that. Now, it might sound really difficult, but we've only been in this tutorial for a few minutes, and we're about to start displaying data. Okay, so how to display data in Vue? You put a couple of curly braces like that. So you need 2 opening ones and 2 closing ones here. And we just write that variable that we could test, and now if that's that test there and test there. Now I'm just using a linter tidy up the code, but you don't have to have that. I just do it to make it look a bit cleaner, so that's why the code moved there. Okay, so we've got that test now. Now let's see what happens when we open the browser. Okay, here we go. Oh, look, see, we're displaying hello world. Now let's have a look at the code here though. If we have a look here, that code is what we've got in Visual Studio Code here in the browser. But Vue has interpreted that code and said, I need to replace this variable with this string, hello world. And Vue's gone ahead, it means we're successful because Vue's gone, okay, here's my Vue instance, I'm going to put that in the app div, and then I'm going to go, okay, anything in the app div that I need to work, okay, test. I'm going to pull that test from here, and hello world. And Vue has actually done that. So we're displaying hello world there. Alright. So, okay, so now we've done that. So let's leave this lesson at that, and we'll come back to the next lesson, and we're going to show, I'll show you how to do something with the data, because just displaying that like that is not very interesting, okay? So come back for lesson 2, and I'll show you how to work with the data a bit more.